All right. I guess this is a new meeting, so I'll start over. I'd like to welcome everyone to the November 6, 2023 meeting of the Delaware County Board of Commissioners for the budget hearing. And we'll do introductions. I'm Jeff Benton, President of the Board. To my left is Vice President and fellow Commissioner Gary Merrill. To my right is fellow Commissioner Barbara Lewis. Administrator Tracy Davies, Deputy Administrator Dawn Houston. And we have our guests today to kick off the hearing, so I will turn it over to you guys.
Great, thanks, Commissioners. Justin Navi, Director of Finance, and with me is Karen First, who's our Fiscal Manager for the Fiscal Services Department.
Great.
Mind switching over to the PowerPoint? Thanks. So, Commissioners, what I'm going to be focusing on today is the general fund budget for 2024.
Same package you handed out?
Presentation from last week, thanks. So in the presentation on page 2, I have just kind of an outline of what I'll be discussing today. First kind of being the general goals and objectives, the policies for the budget that have been set forth. I'm going to also review some of the factors that kind of modify or influence how the budget's developed. I'm going to go a pretty in-depth review on revenue estimates, and then a pretty good summary of the appropriations for the general fund for next year. So slide 3, again on the budgetary goals and objectives. So we take a balanced budget approach whereby revenue estimates need to equal or exceed appropriations each year. And then we also have a cash balance policy where expenditures, the carryover cash needs to equal at least 25% of expenditures from the prior year. And on top of that, we have to have a $5 million budget stabilization reserve over and above that 25% catch. The other thing that we kind of strive towards on the budget itself is preserving our AAA bond rating from Moody's. And through that, we try to avoid issuing debt whenever possible. And really, you know, my interactions with the county administration, the commissioners, really debt would only be issued on major capital and projects that would have big impacts economically on the county. And then lastly, what we've been doing starting this year, we've started working on a 5-year financial forecast for all funds. And particularly the general fund, will be updating that each year and going out 5 years, extrapolating revenues, expenditures, and cash balances. So the next area is discussing factors that influence the budget, and particularly on revenues because of where most of our revenue is derived from. A lot of it is sales tax based, so disposable income is very important to kind of maintain taxable sales in the county. Also, a large portion of our budget comes from real estate taxes, so new growth in terms of residential, industrial, and retail is very important. And as we've been noticing, real estate valuations, because of our real estate tax, it's collected on inside millage, so as property values go up, those collections go up as well. And then lastly, the Fed funds rate impacts essentially our rate of return on our portfolio. So we've seen sizable income increases there just because the Fed funds rate has gone up so much. And then in terms of expenditures, obviously inflation has been very high over the last 2 years, and it's had significant impacts on utilities, just material costs, even construction costs. Couple that with healthcare increases, you know, we're doing our best with the wellness program to kind of maintain a single-digit growth rate for health insurance premiums too. And then in terms of service levels, if you think, you know, with the expansion of the population in the county, there's bigger demand on services, whether it be police, EMS. With that could, you know, depending on our efficiency of our operations, it might require additional staffing levels. And then lastly, with population growth, that really impacts, you know, maintaining our roadways or expanding them as well. So the next slide is a summary of our revenues for next year. And going back to sales tax, you can see, you know, vast majority of our collections and revenue come from that source, with the second being services and charges. What's interesting about services and charges, it's not just kind of like general fees. It includes things like EMS runs, so reimbursements for those, conveyance fees, and then settlement fees for the collections that the auditor and treasurer does semi-annually. So for next year, we're anticipating or estimating about $143 million in revenues. And the next slide is on sales tax and historical trends. So it's, collections have been going up year over year. The dip in the chart is because it's reporting on year-to-date actual revenue collections. Right now, through the end of this current year, we're estimating over $90 million in sales tax receipts. And through the Budget Commission, that number is projected to be a little under 90 million, about 89 million for next year. And the next slide is on real estate collections as well. Again, since we collect on inside millage, it's not like a levy real estate collection where it's voter approved millage. So with this type of tax, as property values go up and down, the tax assessment or collection rate would go up and down as well. And the dip is because, starting last year, the board adopted a millage reduction, which went into effect for this tax year. And that's been expanded again, or extended for next year. But even with that reduction, the auditor's office is projecting still an increase because of the reappraisal, just because property values are going up. Now moving into expenditures, the next chart is just a breakdown of our budget categories. Most of our expenses are kind of grouped into the wages and fringe benefits for county personnel. And then our capital and transfers are large portions, upwards of $36 million. The next slide I've prepared is just a breakdown of revenues by function, which I always find interesting. So in this chart, you can see roughly almost 42% of the general fund consists of general governmental activities. That would include the Board of Commissioners, the courts, not the courts, but the auditor's office. So there's kind of more general governmental organization levels at the county level. But roads and bridges and public safety are obviously two of the higher ones. What I've noticed working in accounting, governmental accounting and budgeting, normally public safety and roads and bridges are always the first two, just because they're very capital intensive or wage intensive for law enforcement. And that number for public safety also includes the EMS department too. The next slide is just a trend of transfers from the general fund. So these transfers can encompass anything from transferring money to a debt service fund, just make debt service payments, a lot of large capital transfers for something like the Bixby project, or it could even be like an operating subsidy for like the dog and kennel fund. So again, the big increase over the last couple of years was the money that was contributed towards the Bixby project, and that was all financed with cash from the general fund, which is very uncommon to see. Yeah. And sorry if I'm moving through this too quickly, so if you have any questions, just let me know. The next chart is just a listing of general fund new positions that were requested for 2024. The largest being the Sheriff's Office. They have one new position for the newly created Academy department. And then they have 3 deputies and 2 part-time staff that are going to full-time. The second largest kind of category there is for the Facilities Department, and those are for the addition of new custodial staff to maintain the Bixby campus. And then for domestic court, there's 1 new staff attorney. The clerk of court has 1 new deputy clerk position, and the treasurer's office has a new accountant position. And I've also listed out the total cost of these positions with fringe benefits included. The next chart is kind of on the Permanent Improvement Fund. And I thought an interesting way to look at it is how much of the appropriations are being allocated by kind of category or department or building. So you could see the largest right now being the jail at $282,000, Willis at $250,000, and then 911 for a generator, backup generator, $200,000. And you have to forgive me, I know I went through that very quickly, but working on this budget with Karen has been really great. It was really a collaborative effort. We went through every accounting line in the budget itself, and we ran out the cash balances on every fund. So that's something we're going to be working on going forward. And by doing that, we can actually have a 5-year forecast on all funds, not just the general fund going forward, which is really nice to have. Because you can identify issues going forward, whether it be, I've discussed how gas tax and the auto title fees or license fees are kind of flat. So you can kind of extrapolate, well, the revenue source here and the street maintenance fund is kind of flat. Are we going to have to subsidize that in future years? How do we work that out? So it's a really helpful tool. The other nice thing too with how we've developed the budget book is we'll be working on that in the first quarter to revamp it to meet the GFOA guidelines, and we're going to submit for the Distinguished Budget Award. So that's something we'll be doing going forward each year too.
Boy, it's a great summary.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I even read it yesterday. How about that? Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it
it
is.
really was. Everything
Very
was
well
so
laid out.
clear, and then boy, the breakdown on the revenue and the spending. Gee, I mean,
Do you-
very helpful.
Do you know at this point, Justin, what the total revenues of all funds would be for next year?
I can get that for you, Commissioner. It's pretty extensive because if you look at all funds, not even the ones that are the commissioners have budget oversight over, if I look at the entire accounting system, it could be upwards of in excess of $500 million. But that's something I can definitely get to you here shortly.
Yeah, yeah, the ones that we have oversight over. I would like to know that. It used to be historically, it was roughly the same amount. General fund and all the other funds were pretty close. So I'm thinking we're approaching 300 million, which again, this become a very big business.
Right, exactly.
But
And you have
just,
to-
just to caution, those funds aren't all for the general fund, or we have discretion over as far as.
Oh, I know.
So
Yeah.
sometimes that gets lost in the translation.
Oh, yeah. But it's good to know just, what,
Just sure, tell us you say it for.
yeah. Questions, comments? Tracy, Dawn?
Tracy Davies, County Administrator. The only thing, I just really want to thank Justin and Karen for their work on putting this budget together. Justin has basically rebuilt the entire county budget in a short period of time, and it's been extremely helpful. Also want to thank all of the elected officials and other offices for their work. They've all been great to work with and have sat down with Justin to go through their budgets. It's been a very collaborative process.
I agree. Mr. Merrill, Mr. Lewis?
I'm always concerned about staffing, and I'm not questioning any requests that were made, but I would like maybe a paragraph or something on the staffing additions requested, just so have some idea.
Sure.
Could you provide that?
Yeah, not a problem.
And one thing to note on staffing, we are still working through the additional positions for facilities. John may touch on it during his budget presentation, going back and forth between whether or not we use the contract services or hire the 5 additional people. So it's a placeholder for now.
I think that's all for the
That's
moment.
it. Dawn?
I don't have anything to add.
I'd like to thank Justin and Karen. Great job.
Well, thank you.
No other questions?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, here we are, what is November 6th? And we've got a
Yeah.
really good roadmap.
Yeah.
Budget is balanced at this point. There's a few things we need to investigate still, but, we really appreciate that we've been able to get this done so quickly and so well laid out. So again, Justin and Karen, I know everybody collaborated on this, but you guys are at kind of the focal point of putting it all together. So again, thank you I know the plan now is to present it for ratification when?
Hopefully by November 20th.
Good.
Me personally, I like to try and get it adopted, the annual budget, the week of Thanksgiving. One, previously being a city finance director, you're working all the way up to the last day of the year, balance and everything. So having that full month for year-end close, I feel is very important for all the agencies. So if we can still maintain that, I think that'd be beneficial.
Right, well, again, you've done a really nice job kind of one-on-one walking us through a lot of the details. So what we're seeing today is really pretty much a summary of what we've spent many hours in the background working on. That's, again, very helpful so that we know how these numbers were prepared and what questions we have and so on. So, again, thank you very much.
John is not quite here yet.
John's out there.
Yeah, is he? Is he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, okay.
don't know if
We
we're
will
going-
let him know that we're ready.
Yeah, okay. Karen and Justin, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
All right, John, welcome. We're in session. We wrapped up the general fund discussion. I did forget to introduce our clerks today in the afternoon session, Ally Glusich and Jennifer Walraven, people who really run this place. So with that, I will turn it over to you. John, you can do the introductions and do you have slides or handouts?
I have just a basic PowerPoint to go over the capital projects.
Okay.
I don't have any fancy presentation.
Okay.
I assume you have a copy of the budget as presented.
Yes.
I don't have the updated one. Just load this up here. Okay. Okay, John Melvin, Director of Facilities, and with me is Randy Ormeroyd, our Maintenance Coordinator, and what is planned to be his last budget presentation. He is scheduled to retire at the end of February, so I do want to take the minute to acknowledge that and thank him for the years of work he puts in together to put together this capital budget list for the capital projects and prioritize it and kind of, look forward out for the future projects coming up. So, again, I really just a quick presentation on the capital projects and nothing major to call out. The first, this is the top of our list is the 911 generator replacement. We've had some issues with the maintenance of it. It's up and running, fully functional now. We've taken care of all the repairs. But we are working on getting proposals together to get that replaced. But currently, generators, there's a 30-week lead time for new generators.
30 weeks?
30 weeks. So working with Buckeye Power, looking at procuring it through a Sourcewell procurement program. So we're looking at kind of a direct replacement. So we would just be mainly looking at replacing the generator itself and not the transfer switch and that stuff. And that generator was put in when we expanded the 911 center in 2000. So it's going on 24 years old. So it still has some service lights, but given the critical nature of it, we felt time to look at replacing it. So just kind of go down the list there. As you can see, our top list, there's just a couple generator replacements, again, due to age, some smaller ones at the EMS stations. One item we're looking at the top list there, at the Willis building, the chiller for the current portion of the Willis building, it's getting up there in age. Need to do some repair work on it. So, and our typical, a lot of the parking lots we need to reseal and stripe. Some sidewalks we want to look at replacing, some boilers, like the Carnegie building, just due to age and stuff. So. Those really, the big ticket items, the generator, the chiller, dropping down the list there, out of the jail, the air handler unit 6 is what that nomenclature means. Looking at replacing that. And there are several items in here we are looking at being able to do in-house with basically our current staff providing the labor. We do have a full staff. We have an excellent staff right now. I do want to acknowledge them. We have a good diversity in there. We've got a journeyman electrician, we have a master plumber, we have an excellent carpenter, we have an excellent HVAC guy. So we've got a nice diverse mix. They work well together and kind of help each other and actually train and learn off each other. So our maintenance team is running pretty high efficiency right now. I do want to acknowledge that. So, is there any questions on the capital list?
I didn't have anything.
It's not really a question. The sidewalks made me think of this.
Mm-hmm.
When we put the sidewalk in out here, we really didn't do anything for handicap. And I'm surprised that was a question at some level. Is that a concern, or is that?
That's something we might look, I believe, as we drop the Court Street sidewalk, number 12 there. That's actually the closest, the section closest to Franklin Street.
Well, where the parking.
Yeah, down here where the
area,
parking
but
lot is.
there's
That,
no-
when we look at doing something there, we might look at.
Right now, you have to get on the street.
Yeah, that
and
little.
I'm surprised that some
It went to the city.
regulation.
Yeah, it was permitted. The plans went to the city.
That's a question. I'm not suggesting we should or shouldn't do anything, but I was,
Yeah, I agree. But it somehow went through that way. So,
Just a question on generator replacement, 50,000, Station 9. That's Genoa, no,
Harlem.
Seven.
Yeah, Station 9 is Harlem.
Harlem.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, those are generators that
Oh, yeah, yeah.
run the whole station. So how big are those? right
Yeah.
They are 35 kW
now?
generators.
So they're a good sized generator.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, 2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple of those in there.
Yeah.
Going on down the list. Again, we prioritize this list here, and actually we did this in end of August. But obviously, as we've done in the past, things change as something might fail and some items may get moved up the priority list. Just in general, we try to work our way down, but sometimes those priorities will change and we'll drop some stuff and fluctuate as the year passes. So again, nothing too outstanding, you know, need to call out on this. So the total budget, you put all this together, broken down by object. Again, going through both lists there, we're about 1.3 million, which is, I believe, right in line with the revenue projections for the permanent improvement. So obviously, we won't get through all this whole list next year. We don't, but we're good to get through that top priority list. Some of the projects we completed this year, we did get they just finished up the Hayes roof replacement. They're doing a little bit of metal coping to finish it up. They're currently working on replacing the chiller at the jail. It's something we actually ordered back in end of 22. Again, lead times. It came in. It was scheduled to come in actually in July this summer, but obviously we can't replace the chiller in the middle of July in the middle of the heating system. So we did push it off. We did make it through the summer, and so they're starting that project right now. We did several projects in-house, some remodeled, like the prosecutor's office. Our team remodeled them, built them some more offices in what was cubicle areas. So we have several other little projects. I don't know if Randy, if you want to talk about.
Yeah, there's been, quite a few different projects, the team has, done this year. And as John said, we're very fortunate, and I feel very comfortable leaving the county in good hands. When you've invested this much time of your life, in some place, because I turned 65 this year, and I've been here, have been here 33 years. So half my entire life's been here with the county. It's been a great pleasure and honor, to work here at the county. I'm not going to disappear, but it's time to turn the reins over, because I know that with the way the county is continuing to grow, there's other big projects coming, and I don't want to get started on those because I won't want to, dump it on somebody. But, with some of the things that we've done here, we've seen the fence remodeled, so, Commissioner Merrill didn't have to see, the waving fence at him, and, the fence over at.
I think you agree, though, it's been a good adjustment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, no,
Let's get that on the
Yeah.
record, too.
Oh, yeah, there was no question. That was on the punch list, before this was even finished. It was terrible. But, that was completed. The fence over on the north end of the parking lot at the Hayes Building, the tree lawn over there had become so aged because that was done in 2001, arborvitaes and stuff. It reached their maturity level, and, checked with the city. And they didn't have a problem with us putting a privacy fence there, checked with the neighbor, and he was good with it. So obviously we built it so that, both sides are, nice finish, and it really dressed up, the north end of the parking lot there at the Hayes Building. And, as John said, the roof, the chiller at the jail, and, the terrible experience that we had with the generator this year for the 911 center when, the county went down for, about, 10 or 15 minutes. And, so that's the reason, we're looking at getting that generator replaced so that, this piece of a critical, machinery doesn't go down in the future, so.
That really highlights the capital projects. I don't think that's the end of the slideshow. I didn't do anything else. The other, the lands and buildings budget, we try to keep that as flat line as we can. Obviously, working back and forth on the whole custodial for Bixby, looking at what increases we might have with the utilities at Bixby. They seem to be coming online pretty reasonable. One thing I did note, looking at all the budget here Friday and today, I noticed our AEP invoices, our AEP expensive, year to date, we're up $40,000 this year compared to last year through October. And obviously our rate hasn't changed because our electrical generation rate is locked in until 2025. So that's the increase that AEP got in their tariffs. It looks like pretty much most of that's probably accounted about $40,000 increase in our budget year to date. So fortunately, the Bixby is in the consolidated electric service area. So yeah, and the other budget, the county garage at service center, pretty much flat line. Fuel prices seem to be holding steady, so, and usage is pretty holding steady, so really kept that budget pretty much flat line for next year too as well. So be happy to answer any questions you have.
I would question flatlining the energy budget next year. I would be super shocked if it's not up in this environment.
Yep.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
I do have a question, and maybe it's in here and I didn't see it. There's been conversations about the Willis building, what we're going to do capital-wise up there.
Yes.
Is there no plans to do anything next year on that as we?
Yeah, currently we're
'Cause I
working
don't
with
see
the Board of
any-
Elections. Obviously, no, we don't want to do any construction during a presidential election. So we're looking at kind of reevaluating, do some value engineering on those plans here once they get certified this election. So we'll work on finalizing those plans next year, have them ready to go out to bid, but we'll start construction after the
And
presidential
we're going to look
election.
at the number and
Yep.
work on it?
Yep, we're going to work on those plans too. The other big project, outside of the permanent improvement is, we're still reevaluating the social services building, trying to get that budget down to something more reasonable. So we're reevaluating that, get that moving forward as well. So those are the two big other capital projects outside of the permanent improvement fund.
Are those dollars in the budget for the social services? Are any of those in there?
At this time, they aren't in the budget in terms of for any kind of construction, no.
And could you just give us a little background on the custodians for Bixby? I know the two alternatives. you're
We
thinking of.
presented a couple alternatives, and I think Justin's been working on, re-looking at those numbers. When I ran the numbers, looking at, working with Chad Alshar, our operations coordinator, he's in charge of the custodians, we felt confident we would need, to handle the Bixby, we could do with 2 day porters and 3 custodians, one of them be a day custodian. Ran those salary numbers. We did get some, quotes, budget quotes. We approached several different vendors. We told them we were looking for budget numbers, not bid numbers, to make sure that they didn't give us, they didn't expose their hand, but, give us a good bid number. So when I was projecting, we could probably bring it in significant savings if we brought it in-house and have better quality control. I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Okay, that's
to actually
fine, okay.
give you that right at this moment.
Sure.
But yeah, so I mean, it's currently we transferred the contract we had for cleaning the Channing Street and just the number of hours. So we're just doing very basic cleaning over there, and we're using some of our day porters to catch up and looking for some of the offices to help a little bit too. So basically, they're emptying trash and cleaning the bathrooms. So that'll cover us through the end of the year. So we'll yeah, working with the county administrators on the plan to whether we
Okay.
bid it out or hire, so.
Okay, okay, thank you. That's it.
I had a question for you, John. The facilities that we're exiting, you know, Channing Street, the Wolf Building, gas station, et cetera, how are those plans to exit those buildings moving forward?
Yes, we're currently working on cleaning up, especially focusing on Channing Street with the contract with Homeport. I know we're looking at closing on that in February.
February, I think,
So
yeah.
we're working, been working with Justin on grant funding to remove the fuel tanks at both Channing Street and at the service center. The Drug Task Force is currently looking at moving into my office there, the back building. And we've had a lot of interest in the service center building up there on front on 23.
Oh, really?
So a couple different entities, whether lease and even the latest one is interested in possibly purchasing. So there's a lot of interest in that building. Working on cleaning those up and
We still need to
obviously.
get the tanks out of there, though, right?
Yeah, we're still gonna move forward to getting the tanks out. And again, we're just working on that grant funding so we don't have to, to use that to fund that removal. So I have a company lined up to do that. It's just a matter once we get the funding all
Okay.
finalized.
We're trying to land the hard deadline for submission of those grants is April 1st of next year. But you got to back it up from then because that's when it's due at the ODOD. We'd like to have them finalized in February, which means that, given that we've already got 200,000 of applications of the covering 200 of the 500 that's available, we would encourage you to get that grant application in,
Yep.
working with Justin, into the city of Delaware, Diane Gunther, ASAP.
Yeah, Justin's working with Diane down there.
Yeah, so because it's first come, first served.
Yep.
Whoever gets,
Yep.
Fills that $500,000 bucket,
Sooner the better.
sooner
Yep,
the better.
Yep, we're on it.
So good. Glad to know that's working. And the other application for the Channing Street tanks is moving forward very
Yep,
nicely.
Yes.
And the Wolf Building,
Yeah, Wolf Building.
Once the sheriff's moves out, currently the sheriff's new building, they're finishing up some of the finished work inside, particularly the lobby. They started installing furniture last week. They have at least 2 to 3 more weeks of furniture install. Working with the sheriff's office, I've met with them a couple times as far as logistics of them moving. They're a little bit trickier than any other office where we can simply say, on this date we're moving. There's certain operation with the patrol division and stuff that we've got to make sure everything's ironed out before we move. So probably looking at December move for the sheriff's office. They'll probably be phased with their operations. So once we get them moved out, the Wolf Building, we'll get it cleaned up, and that is one facility I think we need to sell.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's where I would land at this point. Okay. Anything else?
I think
Tracy?
John covered it.
Okay. Very good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'd like to thank you
Thank you, John.
both.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
We're going to miss you next year.
I know. Oh,
You still
boy.
gonna be a trustee?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he'll be around, yes.
Good.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Hey, Randy, I just want to say, I think we all say, thank you for your job you've done. You've been a good, solid contributor to the success facilities-wise, and you've done a lot of projects in the last few years, at least while I've been here, and while my fellow commissioners have been here, so. But I think they've been A+, so thank
Yeah.
you.
Facilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because when I started, we had 11 buildings that, Jack and I maintained. And, today, we're just under 1 million square feet, that 9 people, take care of, so.
How many buildings do we have now? I don't even know.
That's, we maintain around, that's not all the county buildings, but,
Right.
the ones that we maintain, 44 buildings. So,
Oh, my God.
Yeah, anywhere from an EMS station or
Oh,
our
sure.
tower.
Tower
up to
sites and.
the new courthouse and, now Bixby, 140,000 square feet
Yep.
in one
Yep.
building, so.
Yeah, I thought, that number would shrink a little bit when we, talked about Bixby, but, when you're moving into a 140,000 square foot building,
Wow.
because when John and I first walked that building, I told John, I said, we have to have a daily presence out here, so, love to shop there on 23, I do not miss, since we've moved out there, a day of not trying to turn in and turn out on 23.
On 23.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, my gosh. What is the square footage of the sheriff's new building, roughly?
Roughly 34,000 square feet.
Okay. Added on to what you said then.
Yeah.
Now, is the Master Guards going to landscape that as well, or is?
Yes, we're working with them, offered that up, opportunity to, to landscape the main entrance there. So they've got some plans, we're working with them, get it started this fall. It'd be probably spring, but yeah, way to showcase their work.
I know they want to get the topsoil and everything at the old building done this fall before, so it'll be ready for spring.
Yep,
So is that going to happen?
yeah, I'm waiting for more information from them,
Okay.
Yep,
Good deal.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
so
Thank you,
much.
Randy.
And Tiffany is on her way and should be here shortly.
Yeah, I
Unless
see
she's
Eric
out there.
I see Eric out there, but I assume we want to wait on Tiffany. That'd be a good idea.
Do you want to recess for 5?
So she's,
How close is she?
She should be here any minute, but if you want to take a quick recess, we can
yeah,
do that.
we'll recess for 5 minutes until 2:15.